I am coming for you, Roman Reigns. But not at WrestleMania.
Electrifying man in entertainment is here on Friday Night SmackDown!
Right here. This happened just a week ago, but even then I would say I'm a little late on the matter. The only reason this video wasn't up sooner was because of the time it took to put together, but also because I wanted to give the situation a week to play out. And to be honest, I'm glad I let it play out because it's given myself, as well as the rest of the wrestling community, a lot more clarity on what is actually going on regarding this whole Cody situation. Most people would have seen the clip from SmackDown I just played and felt frustrated. I mean, for a guy like Cody to win the Rumble last year and then get hoed out of winning the title at Mania, to being in a bunch of nothing feuds for the better part of a year, to winning the Rumble this year, I mean, during the night of the Rumble, fans of Cody felt a sense of validation for sticking with the character, for sticking with Cody, and when he won the Rumble this year, fans felt that his direction and subsequently the direction of his infamous story was improving. It was going somewhere where we all wanted it to be, and it felt like all the time that we as fans had invested into Cody, well, it was all finally going to pay off in the grandest way possible. And then, the funniest thing happened.
It's about drive.
First and foremost, I personally have no beef with Dwayne. Hell, I was at Raw Day 1 where he returned and I was screaming my head off like a little kid because it's The Rock. I like The Rock. I think Roman and Rock would be, if anything, a fun spectacle of a match, but for it to come up in these circumstances, it makes literally no sense as to why Cody would win the Rumble if he's just going to let The Rock take his spot in the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, even if Cody ends up getting his match with Roman at Mania, I would be very curious as to how WWE would book around Cody saying word for word that he would be coming for Roman Reigns, but specifically not at WrestleMania.
But not at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania 40, in the main event, I choose you, Roman Reigns.
You must be stupid or something, huh?
Yeah, I gotta agree with Roman here. Stupid is the perfect word for all of this. So basically, all of the audio for this video was recorded on Tuesday of this week, and I was completely unaware that on Thursday of this week, WWE ran a WrestleMania kickoff show. So, a kickoff show 2 months away from the show it's kicking off. I know, classic WWE. Some things in the rest of this vid may be a tad bit outdated, and maybe even more so outdated come Saturday when this uploads. Anyways, on the show, Cody came out, is basically like, oh yeah, on SmackDown I was just kidding, I want my title match with Roman at Mania, and then he kind of just got the match, and The Rock is heel now, and why did any of the things that happened on SmackDown happen? Luckily, this video doesn't fully revolve around Cody's story. As you'll come to see, this video is actually about something that could answer my previously posed question about why anything on that SmackDown happened in the first place. I've seen fans online propose that WWE rehashed that amazing CM Punk and Ace Steel AEW segment pre-All Out 2022. In this case, Punk would be in the spot of Ace Steel and he could fire up Cody into taking his spot back, but even then, it makes Cody out to be stupid for giving up his spot in the first place. Speaking of online fans and fans on social media, they all made their opinions on the Cody thing abundantly clear by getting #WeWantCody to trend #1 on Twitter with over 340,000 tweets within 24 hours of the SmackDown episode airing. I mentioned earlier that people were frustrated, and rightfully so. It is frustrating. It's very frustrating. And you know what? That's exactly what they want. They want fans to be frustrated. This situation is designed to be frustrating, provocative. They want fans to voice their frustrations. They want fans to use the hashtag. They want everyone to be thinking about Cody, The Rock, Roman, the main event of WrestleMania. And why is that, you may ask? Maybe it's to build some suspense on the road to WrestleMania. Maybe it's to purposefully get fans even more invested in Cody finishing his story. Those possibilities, although interesting, are unfortunately a far cry from what the gravity of this situation actually is. The truth that I believe in is, this is a blatant cover-up. This orchestrated outrage was conspicuously placed to overshadow issues within the WWE that go beyond the silly wrestling shows they put on TV. The reality of the situation is that this is a purposeful attempt to drive attention away from a much more grim story that should eclipse the fictitious story of Cody Rhodes. So, if you don't know, on January 25th, 2024, Janel Grant, a former employee of the WWE, would file a 67-page-long lawsuit against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and the WWE. Now, it's very common knowledge amongst wrestling fans that Vince McMahon isn't the best person. This isn't his first rodeo, if by rodeo you mean time dealing with sexual misconduct allegations. There's a very common misconception that the lawsuit is only against McMahon, but to those who actually read the lawsuit, it is very clear that the way Grant was treated during her time with the company was a byproduct of not just Vince, but also many other high-ranking officials within the WWE, all of whom are mentioned anonymously in the lawsuit. For those who have entirely no clue what the lawsuit was about, I'll give a brief overview and leave a link to the lawsuit as well as an article that you can read to better educate yourself in the description. Basically, during her time with the WWE, Janel Grant was forced into a position where she was constantly manipulated both physically and emotionally. She was a victim of sexual assault and sex trafficking that occurred within the bounds of WWE as a company. It was all very traumatizing for her, and she was kept quiet via an NDA and millions of dollars in hush money payments, which Vince McMahon eventually stopped paying her, thus her finally speaking out. Again, that's a very surface-level rundown of the situation. I left out some very graphic examples of the sexual assault that Miss Grant had to endure. I left out examples of names who could be implied on knowing what was going on in the company at the time whilst doing nothing to prevent it. I left out how McMahon specifically targeted her for exploitation before she officially signed with the company due to her poor living situation. The whole thing is just really atrocious, evil, disgusting, everything bad. Now, as much attention as these allegations got, there was a significantly larger amount of attention brought towards the Cody situation when it happened just over a week later. Part of this is due to wrestling fans and wrestling media. Now, in my opinion, the blame can't just be placed solely on wrestling fans, especially when it comes to a large portion of WWE fans and fans who are less online in general. They tend to not be as well informed as to what goes on in the industry on a larger scale behind the TV products that the wrestling companies put out. Part of the reason for my omittance of any mention of Janel Grant in the title and thumbnail of this video is due to my knowledge that the average wrestling fan unfortunately either won't know or won't care about any of this as much as they care about Cody. More so than the Cody situation, my goal with this video is to reach fans who aren't as informed on the matter in order to avert their attention away from the deliberately placed fictional booking decision and shift that attention onto real issues that caused real suffering for real people. I touched on the wrestling media also focusing way more on this Cody movement more than they had on the allegations when they surfaced. When I say allegations, I'm referring to this current lawsuit. Wrestling media was pretty good about covering the events in 2022 where Vince stepped down from leadership in WWE due to more hush money allegations. Even then, though, when he was voted to be reinstalled by an internal board of high-ranking figures within WWE, the wrestling media was less vocal in covering that. Some weirdos online even celebrated his return, which is bafflingly funny. Anyways, I can't stress enough how it's a community effort to bring actual breaches of justice to light, to talk about Janel Grant and these allegations instead of feeding into what the billion-dollar corporation wants you to discuss. It's a community effort, which is why I have to go back to reiterate my feelings of disappointment and frustration due to how big wrestling podcasts, social media accounts, really anyone with a large following in the wrestling community, they handled the lawsuit and the allegations in a very dismissive manner, sometimes even never mentioning them at all. When you compare this to how big names in wrestling media reacted to Cody losing his spot to Dwayne, they were doing several reports a day, pushing for the "We Want Cody" hashtag. They were hosting rallies in support of not Janel Grant, but the fictional character Cody Rhodes. The energy and resources that they put towards Cody should have been put towards calling attention to obtaining justice for Janel Grant, as well as pointing out the possible corruption within WWE management. The fact that I'm making this video, someone with a minuscule platform compared to others in the wrestling community, it makes me very sad. Even sadder, though, maybe, is how WWE and members of WWE have handled the situation. The most extreme example of this being Triple H's performance at the Royal Rumble press conference mere days after Janel Grant filed her lawsuit against the company. For a guy like Triple H to go out there as the head of the company and to glaringly just waffle on about nothing, things that shouldn't have been on anyone's mind at the time, it was a very poor showcase of situational awareness and a very clear indication that he was not trying to address anything to do with the lawsuit. I commend the few members of media who were at the presser asking questions about the allegations or asking about steps that the company was going to take to ensure a safer workplace. But even when confronted with these questions, Triple H brushed them off as insignificant, quickly changing the subject to, oh, the record attendance, or The Rock joining their TKO board, or the $5 billion Netflix deal. Triple H himself even said that he chooses to, quote, focus on the positive, even going as far as to say that in a week where multiple high-ranking officials within WWE were outed to allegedly be involved in sexual assault and sex trafficking within the company, he would have described it as an amazing week for the company. And I haven't even mentioned that when he's asked up front about whether or not he's actually read the 67-page lawsuit, he says that he didn't.
I did not.
And even that might be bullshit if you choose to believe in reports that revealed that Brock Lesnar, someone who was initially scheduled for the Rumble, was pulled from the event after being insinuated in Janel Grant's lawsuit. Even beyond Triple H's handling of the situation, I also feel disappointment in the fact that talent within WWE are staying silent on matters pertaining to the allegations, but are actively engaging in the Cody movement, further intentionally fueling its popularity and thus helping it overshadow the allegations. It seems that no one back there has the courage to stand up for a victim of sexual assault, but the moment someone on the roster shows their support for Cody's fraud movement, they're praised for having the balls to speak out against the company. Cody is not what you should be speaking out for. And to make matters worse, when individuals who work for WWE tweet about Cody over Miss Grant, they set poor examples for the fans, who in turn discuss them discussing Cody. And it's like, do the fans realize that they're talking about Cody for a reason? And that reason isn't fully made up of their innocent support for a fellow roster member. They're doing it on purpose, to distract you, and it's working, and that's frustrating. More than The Rock, more than Roman, more than Cody's scripted story, it's frustrating to see an insanely large portion of fans, media, members of the WWE itself actively contribute to suppressing the community's awareness of these crimes the same way the corporate WWE officers alluded to in the lawsuit suppressed their knowledge of Miss Grant's situation. In the time between last Friday and now, in my eyes, it's become even more evident that #WeWantCody as a movement is a hoax. Especially with reports that WWE brought back The Rock all in an effort to make Cody a bigger star, which by the looks of things is going to work out great for them. I saw a lot of people online comparing this to the Yes movement, which is crazy in my opinion. For starters, Bryan had to legitimately fight his way back to WrestleMania. Cody won the Rumble, and he willingly gave his spot away. Also, the Yes movement was started naturally and forced WWE to put Bryan in at Mania, whereas this unnatural rapid rise for #WeWantCody, it just screams industry plant, in my opinion. And the fact that I've seen people compare Cody and Bryan as wrestlers, like, come on, man, please be for real. The only real similarities between both is that WWE is going to benefit from them. With the Yes movement, they used revisionist history to make people believe that Bryan at Mania was always the plan, attempting to erase the fact that the company did nearly everything in their power to try to quell Bryan's rise as a superstar. Here with Cody's movement, the only thing that they're trying to extinguish is publicity towards the very serious allegations that the company is facing at the moment. And unfortunately, it'll probably work. It's a very bleak way to think, but truly, unless another huge surge in attention goes towards Janel Grant's lawsuit sooner rather than later, I could see things playing out like this. Cody ends up getting his rematch with Roman at Mania. He wins, the fans feel validated, and the WWE has once again dodged very serious allegations tossed their way, until updates on Grant's situation occur like many months later. Again, that's very pessimistic thinking, but I mean, it's the WWE. Would you really be surprised? If you're a WWE fan or fan of wrestling in general, I hope you can take this one thing away from my video. They want you to want Cody. And you can want him, but keep in mind that they want you to want him so much so that his fictional story takes up all the limelight over what the reality is. Over Janel Grant, over her mistreatment in the company, over all the allegations and deep-rooted systematic issues within WWE. For a billion-dollar corporation who has a rich history of getting into deep shit but somehow always coming out on the other side still as the seemingly invincible industry leader, you may feel that attempts to incite positive change as an outsider are useless. You may think that using your voice is futile, but it's been proven here with the artificial Cody movement that when everyone stands united, when there's enough people dedicated to a common cause, the voices of fans can reach them in abundance. It's simply up to us as a community to use our voices to bring attention to the meaningful problems at hand, in order to ensure that those who contributed to these heinous acts are brought to justice, and also to ensure that changes are actually made in order to create a safer working environment in the WWE and to avoid anything like this from ever happening again.